1.
Hey, Bedford Naz family. Hope everyone's doing fine. This is Pastor Dave. Just wanted to share a quick devotion with you. Lord's really been speaking to me on the garden, the time where Jesus took his disciples, and it really, I wouldn't say affected me, but a powerful scripture there. I'm going to go ahead and read from Mark 14, the English Standard Version, starting in verse 32. And they went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took with him Peter and James and John, and began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them, "My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch." And going a little farther, he fell on the ground and prayed. That gets me every time. I don't know why. Every time I read that, he fell on the ground. Wow. He said, if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will." And he came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough, the hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hand of sinners." So there's a few things that I find here. First, Jesus became greatly distressed and troubled. Pretty obvious. It's a very troubling time for him. His soul was overwhelmed with sorrow, and he is crushed with grief. A lot of people facing grief right now in our world, and you don't really think about grief for yourself, but that's what he's looking at, I believe. His humanness showed in wanting the cup removed. Again, this is a heavy load, and is there any way, Lord, that I don't have to go through this? And then, most importantly, Jesus stayed obedient to the very end. And we should all be thankful for that, I believe. So Mark only mentions 3 times in his gospel where Jesus prayed, and each time was when there was a crisis going on. Jesus knew the need of meeting with his Father for strength. The agony he faced now could have been more to do with the reality that he was giving his life, as mentioned in the prophecies, as a ransom for many. There is often agony in heartfelt, honest prayer that we've all had to encounter. Many of our prayers are more than we can really deal with. Jesus had the courage and trust to be totally honest with himself and his Father. He is close enough to his Father that he moved from the desire that God take away the pain of the cross and to trust that his Father's will would be accomplished in his death. It's just human nature to pray that we be saved from whatever trouble we're having. We can all think of this current situation we're going through. Nobody wants to think of the worst. I can personally go back to when my son had cancer, and then when my father was passing away. Some of the hardest prayers I ever prayed. As we begin to trust God more, though, our prayers become, "Not my will, but yours be done." And I think we'll see those answers in time as well. Well, the humanness of Jesus is obvious here as we see him in this agony. He knew exactly what was ahead of him: the betrayal of Judas, the rest of the disciples abandoning him, the sham of a trial, and then ultimately his death, the brutal punishment he took on the cross. And while those that were closest to him fell asleep in the garden, he pleaded with his Father to take it all away, just for a way out. Through this passionate crying out to God, he displayed not just his reliance on him, but also his love for the Father and us. This is a powerful and at the same time beautiful message, an example for us to pray even when we are in agony. We will never be asked to do what Jesus had to do, but we should always pray and take our needs to him no matter what. So Jesus went to Gethsemane with his 11 remaining disciples. He told the 3 closest friends to accompany him, stick with him. Even though Jesus warned them about falling into temptation, they could not stay awake when it mattered the most. He must have felt alone as he ever felt in his life. Like we should, Jesus turned to his Father again for strength to get through this crisis. He chose to go to the Mount of Olives to pray, as he knew this is where he should be. Going to his Father again is where he had to be, more than ever. So let me ask, have you ever felt like one of the disciples? They said that they would follow him everywhere, no matter what he told them to do, no matter where he told them to go. Sadly, we have all failed him, just as they did. How often do we know what we're supposed to do, and we still have trouble? We're conflicted when we know what we have to do. Imagine now that Jesus is there in the garden, praying in such agony for us. Well, that's what he did for us. He died for us. Just turn to him now. He is waiting for you to call on him. Forgiveness is what he's wanting to give you. Are you willing to trust him now? He will completely change you. Just allow him to take those deepest burdens. Whatever you're going through, he will completely be there and be able to, again, be the answer for whatever your prayers. Well, thank you for this time. I know that God is walking us all through this difficult time in our world. Again, don't hesitate to contact us for prayer. Whatever you need, we're here for you. God bless.